Sunday. Is Kit brainwashed?
What do you think you're doing?
When a computer crime queen takes control of his powers,
She's gonna kill him.
will he kill Michael Sunday?
Production 57829, Sole Survivor. This episode was written by Robert Foster and Robert W. Gilmer. It was directed by Harvey Laidman. This episode originally aired on NBC Sunday night at 8 p.m. on November 27th, 1983. It was filmed from October 6th through the 14th of 1983. It was the 29th episode to air, but the 31st episode to be produced. All right, let's dig in. We'll start with the opening seconds of the episode. So for you filming location buffs, this is on Calgrove Boulevard in Santa Clarita. You can see the bridge here, and if we look at it today, there's the bridge now. Still, there we go, still the same. So Kit drove under this underpass and drove around this way. Kit's back to playing, Michael is back to playing video games in Kit. So I think the last time we saw video games being played was in Nobody Does It Better, when they were playing Space Invaders. But here they're playing Pac-Man. And also note the controller that Michael was using, this custom job, is the same one that Bonnie was using and Michael was using in Nobody Does It Better. It has a handle, like a pistol grip handle down here with this box, and then the control lever at the top. And with Michael pulling over to help this lady in distress, his life will change forever. So this is on the old road in Newhall, California, which is actually right down the road from that opening scene with the bridge. And if you check out the mountains here, see how it has this peak right here, then it comes down, then it goes back up. If we go over to the today, there it is. And I think, let's see here, so there's a telephone pole there, another telephone pole, and then it goes around the bend. So I'd say, I think it was probably right about here. So you can see there's that same peak, and comes down and goes over. So it looks pretty much the same. It's a little bit developed right here as opposed to back here where it looks like it's in the middle of nowhere. And here's our introduction to one of Knight Rider's most famous villains, Adrienne Margot, and played by Anne Turkel. Anne, this is her first of 3 separate appearances in the series. The first 2 she plays Adrienne Margot. The third one she plays a completely different character, which I don't know what the producers were thinking when they did that. But anyways, we talked to Anne a number of years ago about her role in the show, and here's what she had to say. To be honest with you, I didn't have to audition for Knight Rider. I think that was due to the fact that I was a known name before the show. The process was that my agent would give me the script, and then I would read it, and thereafter it was my decision if I wanted to take the job or not. I read my part as Adrienne Margot and loved it, so I accepted. And she also noted that she was very, very close with series creator Glenn A. Larson. Glenn's just wonderful, she said. She's good friends with him and had known him for a long time. Back in the 80s, her brother and her boyfriend and herself would go over to Glenn's place 3 or 4 times a week and hang out and watch movies. We used to watch a lot of films together. They were great times. And specifically talking about her role as Adrienne, she said, it's funny because starting from this period of my career, I was always being hired to play the evil character. Adrienne was very centrally evil as opposed to just being nasty and bad. I was really happy to be working on the show. From that very first scene, David and I got along very well. I remember that scene vividly because Adrian's car was a classic Rolls-Royce, and I actually don't like Rolls-Royces. My ex-husband, Richard Harris, was given a Rolls-Royce as part of a deal for a film that he did, but I never liked them. I always assumed that they were driven by old people. Hopefully none of our watchers drive a Rolls-Royce. She also talked about Brian Robbins, who played Randy Merritt in this episode. She said, Brian was excellent and really accomplished. I never felt that I had to give him pointers or encouragement. Moving on, we go to Adrian's house. And if you look in the background, it's overlooking the Pacific Ocean. This is on Birdview Avenue in Malibu, 7055 Birdview Avenue. The house appears to still be about the same, except it's been painted white. So if we look at it today, unfortunately, the bushes are all grown up and it's hard to see, but you can see some of the peaks, and you can see that it has been painted white. But here's the driveway in, and then it curves and goes straight down, and the garage is over here. Let's see if we can get a maybe a bird's eye view of it here. Yeah, there we go. So Kit drives down here. Here's the garage where the CPU was found. Here's the house, and then you can see here it just overlooks the Pacific Ocean. And we have the premiere of the Rodent Raiders van, If It Crawls, It Falls. I always liked this van, how they were driving around in this mobile computer lab pretending to be a exterminator. But we talked to director Harvey Laidman a while back, and specifically regarding this truck, he says the Rodent Raiders on the van was just a joke. In those days, there was no product placement. It was considered payola. The van belonged to the Universal Studios Transportation Department. And actually, we can confirm that because you see this number here, this 499. Universal Studios numbered all of their vehicles. So this would have been their inventory number of 499. It would have been this step van. So there you go. Here's the inside of the Rodent Raiders van. We get a close-up of Randy's table with all these floppy disks. We have an Atari joystick here, and then we have this Texas Instruments keyboard. This actually was pulled directly out of the Semi, believe it or not. So the main computer that April uses in the Semi is this Texas Instruments computer. So they actually pulled it out of the Semi and put it in the Rodent Raiders van. And if you'll notice, this Texas Instruments logo, this actually is not on the production version of these keyboards. They added this for product placement. So there you go. We get some great graphics here on the screen. Again, this is the Texas Instruments monitor that actually belongs in the Semi as well. But anyways, we get some great graphics here. This wire diagram of Kit came directly from the Kit promo that was released at the beginning of the season during the episode Goliath. So if you watch our episode commentary on Goliath, you'll learn a little bit about the Kit, and this diagram came directly from that promo mail-away item. And we see Randy doing a computer override on Kit. Once again, just like we saw way back in Chariot of Gold, whoever's doing the graphics and the inserts does not know how to spell override. Override has two R's. They misspelled it in Chariot of Gold, they misspelled it here, and they're going to misspell it again later in this episode. And here's a young Brian Robbins. So Brian would go on to star in Head of the Class later in the 80s, and now he's a fairly big-time producer. I think he was a producer on the TV show Smallville for 10 years and some other, and now he is the head of, I think he's the head of programming at Nickelodeon. So he has, this is in a very early time in his career, but he's a really accomplished person. So director Harvey Laidman had this to say about him. I worked with Brian several times. He's a very talented guy. His father was an actor and was his guardian during the filming of the episode. So there's also been a long-standing rumor that in between filming, Brian took Kit out for a joyride without permission. And according to the director himself, he says, no, that is 100% not true. But this rumor has been persisting for decades, even back into the 80s. I think it was printed maybe in a magazine that said he took Kit for a joyride, but according to the director, that is not true. Harvey also said that he originally wanted Brian Robbins' character, Randy Merritt, to control Kit using a computer mouse instead of a joystick. And Harvey laughed and said, absolutely not, he needs to be using a joystick. Because remember, this was back in the time before mice were really prominent, right? I mean, I don't think they really became too prominent until the 1984 Apple Macintosh. So it made sense for him to use a joystick. Here we have Michael waking up after being drugged. Apparently they just left him out in the middle of nowhere. And believe it or not, we actually know exactly where the scene is. So see this giant tree? See this hill up here? Let's go back. The tree is still there today, right there. So Michael was behind this bush, and he came up and climbed up onto the edge right there and then started walking down this road. And if you look back here, there's that hill. And over here, there's that hill right there. It's changed a little bit up there. But there's that, and then he turns and starts walking this way. Right there. And look, there's that peak that we saw earlier where Michael was pulled over to help Adrian. So that happened on the opposite side of the road. There's that peak. And if we go back here, there it is now today. So if you want to recreate this scene, you can do it exactly. So I suppose we should talk about the elephant in the room. Edward Mulhare, yes, he did dye his hair for parts of season 2. It's normally much grayer, but this is, a series of episodes here where we see it as brown. So makes him look younger. Why not? Here we have the return of Devon's Mercedes. Of course, this is not the same Mercedes we see in season 1 and parts of season 2. That was a red one. Here he's driving a brown one. And I think this is the only time we see him driving this brown one, which I guess would make sense because Michael ends up trading this car for Elmer Studebaker. But his red Mercedes will make a return appearance in future episodes. And we have Kit's CPU box. The one and only episode we see this in. However, this circuit board is reused again. So this is going to be used anytime we see Michael reach under Kit's dashboard to, open up an access panel. They add a slide door here, and they slide it over, and we see this exact same panel. So we'll see that in episodes such as Lost Night and Killer Kit. But this board does make an appearance again, just not in this enclosure. And then we get this nice establishing shot back at the foundation at night. We see Devon's hardtop red Mercedes here, which indicates that this stock footage was actually filmed during Whitebird, because Whitebird was the only episode that both filmed at Arden Villa and had Devon's red Mercedes with the hardtop shell on it. So there you go. It's always great to pause on inserts like this magazine, and if we look at it closely, we can see that they just added in this picture right here of Brian Robbins posed in front of some clock. Bonus points if any of you can figure out where this clock is located. Is it on Universal Studios backlot? I don't know. But it's also neat because right here at the top they actually have Randy's name, Randall Merritt. Looks like it says 15-year-old super hacker, which is kind of neat. It's just too bad you can't read the text up here. But this text on the left-hand side almost sounds like this is a real magazine, and it might be, because if you look over here, it says something. It's just a little too blurry to read, but it would be really cool to find this exact magazine and turn to this page and see what it actually says. And here we have the debut of the little TV that Kit is trapped in for the majority of this episode. So in reality, this is a JVC unit that had a TV, radio, cassette player all built into one. Obviously, it's heavily modified. They sprayed it black. They added the voice box. This would have been a CRT tube, so they just put this translucent gray piece over the front to make it, so they could superimpose graphics on it for Kit's monitor. But this TV actually makes appearances in a couple future episodes. We see it in Junkyard Dog whenever Kit's dumped in the acid pit. We see it briefly there. We see it in Night of the Juggernaut as well. So the debut of Kit's TV. We have 3 of these that we are working to convert into replicas. We've already built 3 other ones, 3 other replicas. We're going to build 3 more with the donor TVs we have, so be on the lookout for that.
Okay, this is the Soul Survivor TV. So when you plug it in, the screen will automatically come on. This is the HD media player. So let me give you a little walkthrough here. So on this side, right here, this is your SD card. You can pull this out, and I have a few files loaded on it, but when you put it into a computer, there's 2 folders. One says audio, one says video. You can put MP3 clips in the audio folder, and then videos in the other folder to play on this machine. This right here, this red thing, this is the infrared for the remote. I wanted to keep it as unintrusive as possible, so I put it off to the side, but I still needed a way for you to do it. So whenever you're working on it, you'll just do something like that. This switch here is what turns on and off the voice box. So when you're playing videos, you probably don't want the voice box on, so you can just flick this switch up or down or whatever. I forget which way is which. No, this is up. When up is on, voice box on, that's voice box off. Okay, so, and all this stuff up top, this is all dummy. I mean, it's all the original switches, and you can press them and move them, but they don't do anything anymore. All right, so to play a movie, you go to Movie, and then Smart Card, Disc, go down to Video, and there's 4 videos that are in here. We'll start over.
There appears to be drops of radiator coolant on the driveway.
I hooked this factory speaker up, back up. This is the original speaker for the TV. I hooked it up to play the audio. Alright. So let me go back. To play the just audio clips, you have to go all the way back out to the main menu, and you have to go over to Music. If you try and play audio from that movie screen, it's not going to recognize it. So go in here, we'll go to Audio, and then we'll turn the switch on.
You're still you. I'm a shadow of my former self. I used to be sleek and black and dashing, and now, oh Michael, do I look just dreadful? Be honest. Thank you, Michael. The feeling's
When you have the voice box on, there's a little bit of background sound, so you see the voice doesn't go completely off. I'm not sure how to fix that, but it's really not a big deal because most of the time Kit's talking.
That doesn't surprise me. It sounds like Randy lived in his own private world. Michael, are you sure?
And then to turn this, switch it back down, and the voice box is off.
I'm accessing everything that's
And then you can just hit the power button.
video games, television.
That shuts that down. And then you can unplug it. And that's that. And if you lift this, just to show you what I did for the cord, this is the old battery tray, so I cut a big hole in it, and you can tuck the cord in there, and then right there is the battery tray cover, so it all packs up real nice and neat. There you go.
Again, a great view. This is Randy's room, which is pretty sparse, just like they say in the episode. He's got a computer here, and we can see that he has the phone off the hook and connected to the modem, which was very common back in those days. And we see this picture of Adrian and Randy, and when we see the close-up, we can tell that this picture was actually taken at the same time that the picture was taken for the magazine. Brian Robbins is wearing the exact same outfit, so they just did a quick photo shoot, I guess, during that time. And here we get our first look at Kit's alternate scanner pattern. Whenever Kit is the CPU is removed from the car, Randy's programmed the scanner to have a different pattern. So this one is basically two scanners on opposite directions going back and forth. This is not the same logic that drove the original scanner way back in the pilot. So if you remember, in the pilot and in some of the season 1 episodes, you would see a couple alternate patterns on Kit's scanner. Well, this pattern we see here is not one of the 8 patterns that was built into that original logic. We know because we have the original logic and we've built a replica of that original scanner. This is actually a custom job just for this episode. I don't know if they might have just installed 2 controllers onto one scanner bar, right? So they just had them driving the logic driving 2 lights just in reverse. I don't know, but this alternate logic was actually installed on a couple cars for this episode. The left-hand blind drive car that you see here, and also the hardtop stunt car. And also, for those of you keeping track, there were 5 cars used in this episode, 5 Trans Ams. We have the hero car, the insert car, the roll cage acrylic window jump car, the hardtop stunt car, and the left-hand blind drive car that you see here. And another great look here at the left-hand blind drive car. You can see the bulk behind the seat. Out of all of the Knight Rider cars that were destroyed, this is the one that I wish was still around, because to me this is one of the coolest cars that they built. They mounted a camera on Kit's roof here in anticipation of the turbo boost, but what's neat is you see, it's kind of fuzzy, but you see the Rodent Raiders van and you see Adrian's Rolls Royce there, but across the road, which we're not supposed to see, is the line of Knight Rider crew vehicles, camera, wardrobe, etc. And then when we move closer, you kind of get a better look. There's motorhomes, and there's one of the Comtron / Universal Studios transportation fleet trucks. Some crew members standing out there getting ready to watch this scene. And we have a beautiful jump on the roll cage acrylic window jump car. So let's just check it out. There it goes flying over. We see the skid plate underneath. Coming in for a hard landing. This is one of the rare times we see the landing of the car, so they must have determined that despite the fact the front end was bending up slightly and the rear end kind of sagged, it was worth showing us the whole sequence. You can see the headlight is starting to pop up right there. Alright, and then we move back to Randy's house, and we can see that Kit's the TV now has the CPU added, which when we saw it debut in the Foundation earlier in this episode, the CPU was not installed, yet somehow Kit was able to talk. So I don't know how that works, but now the CPU is connected into the TV itself with a ribbon cable. And there's the front of it there. So Kit's breaking into Randy's computer and running through a couple of different screens, and we see Pac-Man on there, which is a throwback to the beginning of the episode. But what's interesting to note is the score at the top is the exact same score that we saw on Kit's monitors at the beginning. So clearly just stock footage that they used back at the beginning in Kit's dash, and now they use it again here. This is interesting. Kit says, in passing, he says that there's homework assignments several weeks overdue, I might add. And that actually kind of lines up, right? Because this episode was aired on November 27th of 1983, and here we have September 24th, September 30th, October 14th, so they are several weeks overdue, just like Kit says. So a rare time when things like that line up. And then we get this great sequence, again, another turbo boost by the roll-caged jump car, but it's hard to see here because it's so blurry, but we have some behind-the-scenes photos that show that this ramp, they actually installed mirrors on the outside of the ramp that were at a slight angle to reflect the greenery around them and the dirt road around them to kind of hide the ramp, which I thought was pretty cool, clever. And this is, again, this episode is just top-notch with the jumps, because here we see this beautiful cloud of dust behind Kit during this jump. Isn't that fantastic? All right, and then we move to the Blackwell Hotel, and we see Michael offering this picture of Adrian with the $100 bill behind it. First of all, we don't know where he got this picture of Adrian, right? Because the only picture he had was the one that he pulled off of Randy's wall that had her and Randy in the picture, and this is a different one. However, she's wearing the same outfit that she wore in that earlier picture. So again, another picture taken during that same photo shoot, but we don't know where he got this specific one. Another view here of the Rodent Raiders van. So on the side it says, if it crawls, it falls. On the front it says, if it flies, it dies. And again, just really clever. Although it doesn't make sense, these giant characters on the side, because you see them driving down the road and these whole things are shaking like they're going to fall off. So someone didn't secure them properly in the prop department. And then we have Kit leaving here, auto driving up onto the ramp. This is the left-hand blind drive car, and nothing too exciting here, but I did want to kind of show you this. A rare time we see the underside of the left-hand blind drive car. In fact, it might be the only time we see it. So nothing too custom under here. We do have the camera tow bar receiver welded in, and you'll notice that this car has these orange shocks. So all of the original cars got upgraded shocks, and these are Koni orange shocks. And that's what you see there. All of the surviving original cars still have these. And interesting to note, no skid plate on this car. It could be, I believe they probably removed it because Kit's coming up at a pretty steep angle here, so they probably removed it so it wouldn't scrape the bottom. That'd be my guess. Yeah, there we go. There's Kit up on the landing. We can see we still have the dual scanner pattern here. We can see the sun visor on the passenger side. We know this is the left-hand blind drive car. And yet another view of the Rodent Raiders van, and back when I talked about this $4.99, you can see it's printed back here, but then you can also see that this flatbed has a number 1760 here. This is the number for this flatbed truck in Universal Studios inventory. So anytime you see a vehicle that has numbers on it, like especially these big trucks or vans in the show, that's what those numbers are. That was their internal inventory system. So they kept records not by the VIN of these vehicles. I mean, they had the VIN recorded, but for them to manage the inventory, it was managed through these numbers there. And I'd be remiss if I didn't at least acknowledge Elmer's Studebaker, which is just a nice comic relief scene in this episode, because there's not many of them. In fact, I think this scene with Elmer is the only real comic relief in the entire episode. And of course, we have Jim Nabors here playing the role of Elmer. He's probably most remembered for his roles on The Andy Griffith Show and Gomer Pyle USMC. And now we have the left-hand blind drive car descending from the flatbed. And just like I mentioned in Custom Kit, there's one of those tabs right there that was welded on for the Custom Kit exhaust on the side. And they just never bothered to take them off, so they'll be there the rest of the series. And we have another misspelling of computer override. That's okay. So this guy right here is uncredited, but this is Alan Graff. He's one of Hollywood's premier second unit director and stunt coordinators. And he has an uncredited role here as one of the guards of the truck. But he has a slightly bigger role in the series finale, Voodoo Night, as I believe his name is Jarrett. So there he is making a quick appearance here. Another great view of the left-hand blind drive car. Sorry for all the pictures of this car, but really the left-hand blind drive car was used more in this episode than probably any other episode. And that makes sense, right? Because for the most of the episode, Kit was driving by himself because he was under remote control. So this episode was used this car very heavily, and if you look here you can get just a hint of a face behind that screen in the seat. We have the return of Kit's laser, which we last saw in the premiere Goliath, and we would see again in Kit versus Car. And once again, the left-hand blind drive car, here again you can see the tab, this time on the driver's side, from the Custom Kit side pipe tab. You can also see the front tab here, which is this giant thing. And we get a rare look at the dash somewhat. You can see it's just a dash shell. There's no electronics. There's not even fiberglass right under here. It's just the stock shell, the stock Trans Am shell with the Knight Rider half shell on top. And now we turn to the hero car, which really hasn't been used much in this episode, but here, now that Randy's going to be driving it, they've switched to the hero car. And then, of course, we go to the interior scene. This is the insert car, which also wasn't used too much, just kind of at the beginning and the end of the episode here. And now this is the hardtop stunt car. And we can see the hardtop stunt car has that alternate scanner pattern. We know it's the hardtop because of the fog light placement. At this point in the series, this was the only car to have the fog lights kind of squished towards the center of the car. And we can also see the squared off overhead console there. This is Jack Gill driving, by the way. Still the insert car. There's the chrome coat hook there. And Brian Robbins did get a chance to pretend to drive Kit, which is kind of cool. And now we switch to the hero car, in which he actually did get to drive Kit. Just a few feet, but he did get to drive Kit. So, and then we move to the end. Michael saying goodbye to Randy and his mom. And this is the hero car, and this is where he gifts him the TV at the end, which is kind of neat. Although it's strange, you'd think that the Foundation would, not want to just give away, which is probably somewhat classified information, to a super hacker, but whatever. And we end the episode with Kit driving away, and this is once again filmed on the old road, and this is right where it all started with Michael pulling over to help Adrian. This is across the road here is where he wakes up after being drugged, so they were just having a field day filming on this one short road in Newhall, California. And then Kit does a turbo boost, and we see this underside shot of Kit during the launch. And did you ever notice there's a license plate on the front here, and it's a Nevada license plate, and something V blah blah blah, you can't see it, but this is a model, but the model actually had a front license plate, which is completely bizarre. And then we see this launch. This is not a third turbo boost. This is actually footage from a different angle from the second turbo boost in the series, the one with the dirt cloud behind it, where a driverless Kit is jumping over Michael in the Mercedes. So, and you can see here Kit still has this dual scanner pattern right there. So they just, use this from a different angle, which I guess was smart.
And now, while we listen to Joe's selection of Knight Rider music that we received directly from Don Peake himself, we'd like to thank these Patreon supporters. Look at you guys scrolling up the screen to my right. Wait a minute, how can you tell which side is my right, since you can't see me because I'm not on camera? Oh well, you know what I mean. We're featuring these fine supporters at our Knight Rider Prop Restorer level. Thank you very much for your support. And for those of you at the Knight Rider History Hunter level, we're recognizing you right now in the description. Now, if you enjoyed seeing this golden nugget of Knight Rider history being rescued from obscurity, then please consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support would empower us to bring you even more of these historical nuggets. We are the Knight Rider Historians. Till next time, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.